Let's go to our panel of the day. Rob Campbell is here, company director, sitting at the desk next to Agnes Loheni, who is a businesswoman and former National MP. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you both. Now, brutal Ipsos poll for the coalition, well, for National, actually, this week. Agnes, what's your thoughts on what do they need to do to turn this ship around, or is there turning a ship around, that sort of thing?
I think it's good that it's come out at this time. We're still not actually in election year, although, you know, as you said, there's an opportunity still here for the government, for the national government. I think for me around the poll, the most interesting thing is that people think the answer to this, you know, to the economic sort of downturn that we have is a Labour government, which actually pretty much dug up the big hole that this government is trying to get ourselves out of. I'm not saying giving excuses. I think, you know, the government does have to now, you know, focus on this poll and turn things around. Things obviously been great around crime and law and order. And, you know, we don't see those stories now about ram raids anymore. But, look, as a business owner myself, you know, the first 2 quarters of this year have been tough. And although it's picking up now, there are green shoots. We've had to dig into reserves. And, look, some businesses didn't have those reserves, and so they have gone under. So I think there's still some time, but, you know, look, I'm going through menopause, sometimes I forget, but I have not forgotten, you know, Kiwi Build and those issues and those promises. So, you know, I think closer to election year, people will start to really focus in more.
Do you think we have collective menopause in this country?
I think we live in this digital space where news comes so quick and fast now, and we, you know, sometimes
we've forgotten.
We forget what happened last week.
Rob, what do you think? Because to be fair, a lot of the polling periods that we've been talking about, Labor hasn't had any policy. And so I've been working on the assumption, I think this is a protest vote against National rather than an endorsement of Labor, because Labor's had nothing to show, and voters aren't stupid, they, you know. But now we do have some policy, and we've also seen that the polls aren't really moving.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, it's unfortunate for Chris Luxon as an individual, but the big trap I see here is the election's not about Christopher Luxon, and it's not even about what people sort of feel good about, in my opinion. It's about the direction of the country, the things that have been happening. There are really material things that have been happening that we need to address, and we should focus on those. So actually, you know, whether people like Chris Luxon or Hipkins, whichever, I don't think it is really the big issue, and I don't think, frankly, it will be the issue when we come to election time.
It'll be cost of living, it'll be economy, because that's what people care about. That's what they say they care about. But I think, unfortunately, we still do have this thing about leaders. And we had Jacinda Ardern.
It's unfortunate to have that when we don't have any decent leaders, isn't it?
Well, that's right.
Why do we even want them? I think a situation where we don't have them might even be better. All the problem leaders cause around the world.
No, I completely agree with you. We have either a leader that everybody loves but who's not very good, or a leader that everybody hates who's, you know, muddling through.
But in fairness to Chris Luxon, he's held together a coalition that has been largely, you know, quite stable. Which didn't happen before, and that's quite a task in itself. You know, sure, there's criticism of other parts, but I think it's important that you do hold, you know, a 3-party coalition together quite well, and to, you know, keep them quite cohesive.
And to prove you can do that, yeah. All right, let's talk about the farmers. We just spoke to Fed Farmers about this. I think it's a no-brainer, and hopefully you can help me with some arguments against it, because I'm struggling. But if you're a farm worker and you're living on farm in a service lease, you can't buy your first property using KiwiSaver because you have to be living in the home. Now, they obviously can't because they're living in a different place for work. Would it not seem fair and reasonable to let them buy their first home, Rob, somewhere else and not live in it for the first 6 months, whatever it might be?
Well, I certainly don't think it's a huge issue for anyone else, and I can see that it's an issue for those people. So, yeah, look, I don't have any great problem with it. We've kind of broken the duck on KiwiSaver anyway. Once you say it's not purely for when you retire, but you can borrow it for this, that, and these other life events, then I think we've probably broken that duck. Just on that, it is interesting. We do have a problem with an ageing farming workforce. It's a real problem, as it is in many other occupations at the moment. And there is I know a lot of thinking going on in the rural sector about how it is that we enable transition of younger people into farm ownership, not just farm ownership, but farm management roles, which often require some capital themselves to go with them. So that ageing of the farming workforce is an issue, and maybe this would help some young people to stay in farming, and that would be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Agnes?
Well, I think, look, in what the economic downturn has shown us is that we absolutely really need to have a strong rural agricultural economy, and our farmers are key to that. So I'm very sympathetic to anything that will incentivise young people to get into the sector. But that said, I think it's one of those things, if you apply it to a group, then it's not to say that other people in urban areas are also finding it tough, and they might want to have some changes to rules to apply for them as well. But generally, I'm very sympathetic to this.
Yeah, true. That is one point. Like, if you have to work somewhere other than where on an oil rig or I don't know.
There'll be other people with similar situations, and if we are going to allow the funds to be used for some other life event, then this seems like one that you might use it.
Yeah, all right. Nvidia, I wanted to see what you thought about this, Rob, because the value, it's been apparently a bit topsy-turvy this morning or overnight, but it was up 4% when I checked it like 3 o'clock this morning. It was down to up 1%, but not falling through the floor. This result yesterday was pretty good. But at some point, there's going to be a wee correction here or there on this. But fundamentally, do you think the case is strong for Nvidia, for AI?
Different questions.
Yes.
Look, AI is not going away. How big it is, I don't know. I actually read a thing by Citibank just this morning on this, which I thought had a remarkable phrase, which said, "This is not a bubble, it's a boom." Now, boy, that's a pretty slight distinction, isn't it? And there's no doubt that the valuations of all of these AI and AI-related companies are not going to be justified. There are going to be winners and losers in there. Some may go okay. I don't know which ones. If I knew which ones, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you this morning. But some will win, some will lose, some will blow up spectacularly. And we know that. There's no possibility anything else happens. They don't all succeed.
Yeah. There was a great graphic on One News last night. They showed how much the, not KiwiSaver, the super fund had invested in Nvidia. 2010, I think their first investment was $300,000 or something, now worth more than $2 billion. Just incredible numbers. Massive company. Yeah. Yeah.
It's been quite an amazing story, but we've seen these things in history before, and some of them have justified the valuation, but a lot of them haven't.
Agnes Loheni and Rob Campbell on our panel this morning.